Why most musicians fail, and what I learned the hard way. You know, I've been around long enough to see some of the most talented musicians in the world fall flat on their face. And not because they couldn't play. Man, some of them could play circles around me, around anyone. But here's the hard truth. Nobody really wants to admit talent isn't enough. Yeah, I said it. You can have chops, tone, gear, even a killer look. But if you don't have the other stuff, the stuff that's harder to measure, you're already halfway to failing. I've seen players come to Nashville thinking they're going to be the next big thing because they can shred on a Les Paul or sing like Chris Stapleton after 3 bourbons. And sure, the first gig or two, people are impressed. But when the cracks show, they don't know how to read an audience. They don't know a lot of songs. They don't know how to pace a set. They get stuck in their own ego thinking the world owes them applause. Spoiler alert, it doesn't. Here's the ugly little secret that no one wants to hear. The music business isn't fair. It isn't even kind. It's a grinder, and most people fail not because they weren't good enough musically, but because they didn't understand the game. They didn't know how to hustle, how to network, how to keep people wanting more instead of less. They didn't understand that music is as much about connection as it is about notes. And listen, I'm not preaching from the pulpit here like I've always had it figured it out. I've made those mistakes. I've let my ego get in the way. I've played shows where I didn't respect the crowd. I've taken gigs I shouldn't have, and I've passed on gigs I should have taken. But over time, after plenty of bruises, and believe me, this business will bruise you, I started to realize something simple. The winners aren't always the best musicians. They're the best survivors. So today I want to talk about why musicians fail. The reasons aren't what you think. It's not lack of talent. It's not gear. It's not even luck. It's the little things, the mindset shifts, the way you approach every gig, every rehearsal, every chance to play. And maybe if you hear some of this, it'll keep you from making some of the same dumb mistakes I did. Now look, man, talent gets you in the room, but ego gets you thrown out of it. And it's not so much as somebody grabbing you by the throat or you're getting the hook on stage or anything like that. They just decide not to call you, right? Now look, man, as a young guy, you know, we think we know it all. And that is the curse of youth, right? I've seen it so many times that now when I see a young artist who isn't willing to listen, when you offer them advice, hey, why don't you try dressing up for the gig? Hey, why don't you work on your showmanship? Hey, why don't you sing more clear so that people can understand what you're saying? And they poo-poo your advice. They don't listen to what you have to say, and they negate it and say, why should I do that? Why should I put on something else? I like what I'm wearing. Why should I, perform? When I see that now from a performer, I just throw my hands up. I'm out. Dude, I'm out. If you're not willing to take advice. Now, that doesn't mean you have to blindly follow every ounce of advice from every old timer who tries to suggest you do something. But you need to be able to go, is this person right? Do they have something here? Could I improve the way I look on stage? Could I sing more clearer? Could I perform a little bit more Could I learn something from this person rather than just, negating anything they say? When I see a young performer now who's not willing to listen to somebody who's been there, to somebody who's done it, to somebody that's older and has advice, I'm out. I'm out. I see them as somebody that's going to have to learn everything the hard way. And that is a train wreck that I don't want to witness, right? There's nothing about that I want to experience again. The reason why I'm on this site, and a lot of it is talking to people who are like me, who have been through it. I know everybody out there, mostly that watches this channel, are experienced guys like me, and I love to hear from you in the comments. But man, now that we've learned what we've learned, we're giving this knowledge out, and I'd love to hear your best performance, advice in the comments. But man, these young guys, if they're not willing to listen, if they're not willing to hear this advice, if they're not willing to watch a 10-minute video of a guy trying to explain how you can improve your performance, then I can't help you. The ego trap. The stage isn't your therapy session. It's a connection session, right? A lot of people think they just want to get up there and put out whatever vibes they're feeling, whether it's, I've got this girlfriend and I'm going to sing my song about my girlfriend and I'm going to mumble the lyrics and hope that she hears it. That's not what it's about. It's about creating something that everybody can relate to, right? It's a connection session. Every time you get on that stage, you need to connect with people. And look, if you're playing before a mostly indifferent crowd, and we've all done that in the past, I know I have so many times, I've lost count. But what you can do is look for that one person in the audience whose eyes are lighting up by what you're doing, who is tapping their feet, who is showing a response to the music that you're putting out, and focus on them. And their joy of what you're doing will expand through the crowd, right? It's not easy playing for an indifferent crowd. It's not easy if you're a young guy and you're playing for, a bunch of 50-year-olds. But look, man, it's about connection. And those people in that audience, they buy records too. They buy t-shirts too. They listen to music on YouTube. And don't take any audience for granted. Always do your best. Every crowd is worth performing for. Let me repeat that. Every crowd is worth doing your best. Every crowd is worth performing for. And it doesn't matter what crowd you're playing for or how they're reacting, you need to always give it your all. And by giving it your all, you should be dressed as good as you can. You should be rested. You should be tuned up. You put new strings on your guitars. You make sure your rig works. You're able to tune. There's no tuning out loud between songs. Your flow of your show is consistent. You're able to go from one song into the next without dead space. Hey, this is all rock and roll 101. If you're not doing these things, then you're not even getting the basics, right? This is basic stuff. And so many young performers think they know it all, and they don't listen when we try to help them, when we try to guide them. Now, I have been paid in the past to work with younger performers to try and help them improve. And I've largely found that there's two types. There's the type that wants to be molded, that needs the advice, that's accepting of the advice, and they do it. And then there's the other that only wants to do what they want to do. And if it's not in their cards, if it's not in their wheelhouse, they simply won't listen to your advice. And the latter half, I don't have any interest in working with somebody who's not willing to listen. Look, I don't want to see the train wreck of some extremely talented person making the same mistakes that I made when I was 20 years old. I don't want to relive that moment, and you shouldn't want to live it either. But here's the deal, man. People don't listen. Youth thinks they know it all, and the reality is they don't. Now, you have to learn how to read a room, right? And just playing whatever you planned on playing, that's not reading a room. Reading a room would be having a repertoire of, a ton of songs. And whether it's your own original music, you should have all kinds of music. You should have slow songs. You should have up-tempo songs. You could have stuff in different genres to be able to adapt to a crowd. And that's if you're playing original music. If you're also playing cover songs, the same should be true. You should be able to play stuff from all different decades. Read your crowd. If the crowd's not moving, you're not playing. You're just practicing in public. Think about that. When you play live, are you just practicing in public? Is that what you're doing? Are you just taking your rehearsal clothes and wheeling your stuff out there, and it's just another rehearsal, and you're ignoring the crowd, and you're not talking to the crowd, and you're not singing in a way that people can understand what you're saying? If you're not connecting with people, then you're just rehearsing, and nobody wants to watch a rehearsal. The hustle factor, and this might be the most important. The gig doesn't end when the music stops. It ends when you've shaken every hand in the room. Now, this is a powerful, powerful thing, because let me tell you something. The best band leaders that I ever worked for, immediately when the gig was over, they were out there working the crowd. They were lavishing the praise of people that enjoyed the performance. They were handing out business cards. They were shaking hands. They were saying hello to people. They're taking photos with people. They are working the crowd. That is called hustle. And if you want to be successful in the business, you're going to have to do that. And, you're not going to get meet and greets if people don't want to meet you. Make yourself open on stage. Show that you're willing to talk to people. Be thankful that you have an audience that's watching you. Don't just pack up your stuff and limp off to your vehicle and not speak to anybody or anything, man. If you do that, then I guarantee you're not going to like the results in the long run. It's simple. How bad do you want to make it? How much are you willing to hustle? If you're not willing to get out of your comfort zone, to go shake a few hands, and look, I get it. You might, in today's world where everybody's sitting there with a phone and texting and hiding behind a screen, face-to-face interaction, young people are not used to doing it. But that is the one thing that's going to elevate you above all the other clowns that are trying to make it. If you can master that. Now, I had a young kid the other day, and he just happened to show up, knocked on the door. He was selling lawn treatment, a major company that comes and fixes your lawn. And we had been having problems with our previous company not doing what they were supposed to do and all this. And he happened to knock on the door. I said, dude, good timing, because we're not happy with the service we have now. He knew as a young guy it was all about connecting with people. He knew that. I said, look, dude, I know that coming up and knocking on doors, cold calls, that is the hardest thing you can possibly do. But look, if you want to sell something and you're getting into sales, that's where you got to start. And it's the same thing if you're a musician. You are a salesman. And guess what? The product is your bitchin' skills, dude. And if you can't figure out that you're going to have to sell yourself and your abilities and relate to people and be able to be uncomfortable and have conversations with people and learn how to master that interaction, well, then guess what? You're going to have a lifetime filled with regret. Consistency beats brilliance. One killer solo won't build a career, but showing up on time will. Be on time, in tune, and sober. Be clean, be dressed well, be well kempt, be freshly shaven. All of these things will make the difference. Playing amazing technical solos, nobody gives a crap about that, right? That's a bonus, right? People want consistency. People want someone who is there. They know you're going to be there every time. And look, man, yeah, in my time in Nashville, I would show up and I would shred and I would play killer solos. But the reason they called me is because they knew I would always be there. My gear would always be ready to gig. I would always have the right clothes on, and I'd always have a good attitude. And anything else after that, of course it helped that I could sing harmonies and lead. Of course it helped that I could shred or play over whatever style of music we were playing. But the most important thing was I was reliable. Survival of the realist. The winners aren't always the best players. They're the ones who will still show up after everyone else quit. Now, I've been on gigs where people have literally quit in the middle of the gig, or people have canceled. People have left people high and dry. Oh, I can't make the gig. My car's broken down and all this. And man, that's when you can prove your mettle, right? Maybe as a guitar player, you offer to bop over to bass. Maybe you say, hey, well, we can still do this gig. I've played gigs where we get to the gig, and this has happened several times. And here's a lesson. Here's a valuable lesson. Been playing the gig, and the power goes out. What do? Most people throw their arms up, the power's out. Breaker goes down or whatever, and they don't know what to do. The best band leaders, I've seen them, dude. We literally, power's out, drummer keeps his beat, the lead singer looks at the band and goes, come on, everybody. And we literally kept the tempo, kept singing the chorus of the song, and started doing a line all the way through the crowd, working the crowd, keeping the beat, keeping the thing going. Maybe while you're doing that, the power, the breaker gets turned back on. If it doesn't go back on, you're keeping the party going. You're doing your job of performing. You keep that going for 10 or 15 minutes, and then you go, hey, thank you, everybody. We're going to take a little short break. Otherwise, the other option is, power's out, sorry. And everybody just stands around with their you-know-what up there, you-know-what. So look, man, there are ways that you can make a win out of a negative situation. And that's one of the most important things I can tell you. So here's where I land on all this. Why do most musicians fail? Not because they weren't good enough. Hell, there are bar bands right now with players who could eat half the big names for breakfast. They fail because they never learn the balance between ego and humility, between talent and connection, between dreaming and doing. Think about it. The crowd doesn't care about your pedal board, dude. They don't care how much your amp cost. They don't care if you're playing a 59 burst or a pawn shop beater. They care about how you made them feel for those 2 hours on a Friday night. Did you lift them up? Did you make them dance? Did you take them somewhere? Or did you spend the night showing off your chops while the bartender made more tips than you did? Musicians fail because they think the music is about them. It's not. It's about the exchange, the energy that goes back and forth between you and the people listening. That's why DJs can control a room with the press of a button. They get it. They live or die by reading the crowd, and that's the secret sauce most musicians miss. The other reason? They quit too soon. This business will grind you down, chew you up, and spit you out. And if you think one bad gig or one missed opportunity means you're finished, then yeah, you probably are. But if you can survive the bruises, laugh at the rejections, keep showing up when everyone else packed it in, that's when the magic starts happening. So my advice, drop the ego, respect the crowd, pace your show, hustle harder than the next guy, and keep showing up. If you do that, you're already ahead of 90% of the people who thought they were destined for stardom. And hey, when it all feels like too much, just remember why you picked up the guitar in the first place. Not for the money, not for the fame, but because music feels like flying. Keep chasing that, because in the end, the only real failure is giving up.